Well, here I am.
Thank you for joining the Syndicate Network and your host, Skywalker the Jedi. Skywalker the Jedi.
Yo, 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 what's going on? What's going on, y'all? It is your boy Skywalker the Jedi back at y'all with another one. Much love, all y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Those that will be taking part in the live crew, and everybody that will be watching along with the replay as well. Man, it's been crazy getting the stream started, my screen locking. Now I get on here and I'm acting all laggy. I don't know what's going on. Every time we got to have one of these kind of conversations, StreamYard and YouTube be acting all wacky, not sending out notifications and none of that stuff. But make sure you guys are hitting that like, subscribe, that notification bell as well, so that you might know when I'm going live, because you never know. You never know. I ain't getting no notification on my phone, which is usually how I can tell if they went out, because I get them on my phone as soon as it goes out. You know what I'm saying? But we about to have a dope conversation tonight, man. This is one that I'm very, very excited for, and I'm glad to be able to have this conversation and talk about these things openly, because I think that they definitely need to be discussed. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let me do this real quick while y'all filing in here. Yeah, let me at least do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, nah, it's all good. We gonna cook regardless. As long as it's a couple of y'all in here, we gonna cook. You know what I'm saying? I ain't even tripping. Y'all already know I don't do these types of streams for views or whatever, or for anything like that. It's purely just about having these conversations, for sure. Sin Havoc said, I did my part. Said I sent notifications. Hey, much love to the homie Sin Havoc. Frank C says Sky's about to bring more truth to light. No, we definitely about to have a dope conversation. We're definitely about to have a dope conversation, and I'm very, very excited. How is the video coming through? Is it like super laggy? Because if it will, I'll just shut the video down for a little bit, and then you'll just be able to hear me. But yeah, super excited to be here, and it's about to be a dope conversation. And we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to the nitty-gritty tonight. We're gonna really talk about these topics. You know what I mean? For sure. First of all, let me make sure that I let you guys know that we are on the road to 2K. Make sure that you guys are smashing that like button, hitting that share button, the subscribe as well, and the notification bell, so that you know when I'm going live or dropping a new video. You dig? And if you guys would like to sponsor a stream, when you guys give super chats, they are tallied up, and whoever donates the most will be sponsoring the following stream, like the homie W Mir is tonight, and you'll have your name scrolling across the bottom. All right. Much love to Sin Havoc and Frank C in the building early. Let's go ahead and get to some of these topics, though, because I really wanted to have this conversation, y'all. Because as you guys know, when I did my last stream that was when I did my last stream that was kind of concerning some of these topics. You know, they were brought upon by a certain few videos that I saw kind of permeating, especially the one of Obama kind of, or Barack, should I say, coming out and kind of chastising black men for not voting for Kamala Harris and saying that we were misogynist if we were deciding to vote another way. And also the video from Bill Clinton where he was kind of speaking to the migrant situation, and he kind of said the quiet part out loud when he said, hey, we kind of need these immigrants because we're at a declining birth rate and we can't, really afford to not have people in the country, right? Like Bill Clinton said that. I didn't say that. That didn't come out of my mouth. That came out of Bill Clinton's mouth, right? So obviously, when I saw things like that, it kind of prompted a stream. And this one was also prompted by this, the section of the speech that Michelle gave at one of the rallies. I think it was in Kalamazoo, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, the other day when Barack said, hey, y'all lucky that I didn't bring Michelle out, I guess he really meant that, right? Because he did bring Michelle out just a few short days later. And, here we are, and we're about to break down what was said. And I'm going to tell you why I feel that her speech in particular was very, very problematic and very, very disrespectful, and just a lot of different things. We're going to break that down first, and then we're going to get into, what the crux of the stream is, right? Let's get into that now.
That there are a lot of angry, disillusioned people out there, upset with the slow pace of change. And I get it. It is reasonable to be frustrated. We all know we have a lot more work to do in this country. But to anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. So, are you as men prepared to look into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety? And to the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment. And we are more than just baby-making vessels. And if you are a woman who lives in a household of men that don't listen to you or value your opinion, just remember that your vote is a private matter. Regardless of the political views of your partner, you get to choose. You get to use your judgment and cast your vote for yourself and the women in your life. Remember, women, standing up for what is best for us can make the difference in this election. So let us use our voices in these final days that we need to stand not with Trump, but with us. We need them to vote for the only candidate in this race who will protect our lives. We need them to vote for Kamala Harris. Kamala, she will fight to restore our reproductive freedoms and defend our health. Kamala will fight for our access to life-saving emergency care and maternal care in every state. Kamala will veto any abortion ban or bill that restricts access to contraception or IVF. Kamala will expand access to birth control and abortion pills. And she will do all of this not because she's a woman, but because she's a decent human being. She will do this because she cares about the lives of people other than herself. And that's really what this election is about, Michigan. This isn't just about what we have an obligation to say no to. It's about what we have the opportunity to say yes to. And we can elect someone who has the experience, the character, and the strength to look at all these challenges and still see a brighter day on the other side. Kamala Harris will see us, all of us. Kamala Harris will listen to us, all of us. She will protect our freedom. She'll stand up for all of our lives. She will have our backs for the folks trying to get ahead and those just trying to get by. And in doing so, she will usher in a new generation of American leadership and send the ugliness of Donald Trump and his politics back where it belongs, the past. But Michigan, she cannot do any of this alone. So I'm asking you one last time, let us not just sit around and complain. Let's do something. If your brother or your son or boyfriend needs to hear your perspective, are you willing to talk to them? Are you willing to send a video of what I've just said? Are you willing to do something? If you have an aunt who's thinking about sitting this one out or voting for a third party, are you willing to have an uncomfortable conversation? Are you willing to do something? If you have an extra hour or extra weekend, are you willing to knock on doors and talk to your neighbors? Are you willing to do something? Look, Michigan, we've just got 10 more days to make it happen. 10 more days to wave goodbye to the incompetence and hatred and division. 10 more days to welcome in a leader with the character and the heart and the strength worthy of the office she seeks and worthy of the country that we all love. Michigan, let's give Kamala everything we've got. Can we get this done? Can we get this done, Michigan? We need you, every last one of you. Get this done. Get this done. And now, it is my pleasure to welcome to this stage the next President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
I wanted you guys to get those words that she said in their full context. I wanted you guys to get, the verbal cues and the nonverbal communication that was there and all that. I wanted you guys to get a great sense of that before we have this conversation. One of the things that really stuck out to me first and foremost was just what I feel to be, and everything that I'm going to say here in this section, especially, is obviously it's just my thoughts and opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Who am I? I'm just a guy that literally worked for Obama, being in the military, and was there first day that he got sworn in, all that, right? But I'm just a regular guy, with an opinion. But the anti-family rhetoric that I just heard in that speech really bothered me. It really, really bothered me, right? Because for all the talk of, people needing to unify, and, she didn't single out black men there, but, I feel like we know who she was talking to. But hey, that's neither here nor there. Let's just say that she's talking to men in general, right? When I think she was talking to mostly black men. But, just for black men and the black family unit and dynamic, in and of itself, for it being so, almost non-existent today. Or, I mean, we have it, but it's definitely not the norm, right? So when I hear somebody that it has as big of a microphone or platform as a Michelle Obama, and is as beloved in the black community as she is, when I see her give this speech and pretty much give some 1984 party over family shit, I mean, that's incredibly trouble. That's bothersome for me, right? Like, I mean, you know, women in, hey, us making women in our own households and close to us victims of our collateral rage because of the fact that we want to vote differently, and we may have a different set of views on something, on how the country should be governed or how our tax dollars should be spent, right? Because of the fact that we have a difference of opinion, we are creating victims with the collateral damage of our rage. I mean, look, I didn't make that shit up. Like, she said that, right? Pretty much, saying, hey, like, if you're voting for this guy, you're voting against women, right? Do you guys know how many women were at that Donald Trump rally in Coachella? Is that I was at? Thousands, tens of thousands of women. Like, I've been to a lot of these other states that are mostly, leaning politically like red, right? Thousands, millions of women that don't believe in a lot of these things. Like, when you look across the board between Democrats, Republicans, independents, a lot of the things that the Democratic Party tries to push, like you just saw, because the whole platform is kind of set up on reproductive rights, which I think is just look, kind of like how when they like soften language over time, right? It goes from like shell shocked, to battle fatigue, to something else, and then it's post traumatic stress. It just keeps getting, like the language just keeps getting kind of softened. But in the end, that's what this is, right? And you just heard it. Like, that's all that she had was, hey, like, you guys are voting against women, right? And they're saying, hey, like, men need to do better, for the women in our lives, right? And that it's not, you know, an issue for women to demand that, you know, we do better if we decide that, hey, we want to vote for Donald Trump. Right? Pretty much saying, hey, fuck what your husband has to say. Right? You know, you go in there and you do your thing. Right? I mean, I personally, I think that it's best when a household is kind of aligned within their goals, right? And they're kind of, you know, all on one accord and moving as one unit. But, you know, I just had a conversation with somebody recently who, you know, I got a lot of love for. He told me like his wife is going to vote for Kamala Harris. He's not, you know, I'm pretty sure that they're not fighting about it every day. Right? And who's to say that there can't be a successful household where the couple doesn't agree politically, right? You know, I obviously think that, you know, there can be cases where uh people can have a difference of opinion and actually be able to have a successful household. But when you approach it from the avenue of like, hey, fuck whatever they got to say, you just go do your own thing, you know, that's not necessarily, in my opinion, the best way to go about handling that situation and those types of conversations. Right? Creating more like, you know, discord, right? Or all types of things that's happening that may or may not be chaotic or problematic, right? um is it a good thing to kind of live in those kind of emotions, right, where you're constantly going back and forth and arguing about something, or saying, hey, you need to do better by me because you want to go a different way politically? And what's wild is I only kind of see this extreme kind of talk because look, I don't typically hear um people saying like, oh my god, like you voting for Kamala, I can't talk to you no more. Like I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, but I have heard a lot of the other way around. Right? And I'm sorry, like I just couldn't help up on the 1984 party over family shit that, that in this, right? Let's look at this real quick, right? Because I actually, this is where this 1984 thing came from, right? So let me close down this ad before I show this. My computer acting super slow right now. I don't know what is going on. Right. This is wild. Let's just reload this. Yeah. What up, Koopy Mally? He said, oh, it's a different topic discussed. Yeah, hey, we be in here cooking on all kind of stuff. So, but just know that, yeah, I actually have an announcement in a little bit that I want to give you guys, but you just kind of wait because that's gonna come at the end of the show. See, this is crazy. See, get on stream and everything want to start going haywire. Computer want to lock up. Pages want to not respond. Right. Sky versus the algorithm for show. Right. Okay, here we go. All right, now present, share screen. Wow. All right, so this is just something that I wanted to touch on real quick because this is just one of the many kind of write-ups that I found about this. But right, like the destruction of family in 1984, right? The family unit of Oceana in George Orwell's book 1984 plays an important part to society. These families are broken rather than households of affection and comfort. Oceana's government, called the Party, controls the families in every aspect. With these non-existent families, there is a cycle of breaking down a family and a stronger party as time passes until there is force strong enough to end it. These families that lead to corruption in society should be avoided in order to prevent a totalitarian government from rising, right? In order to keep their power, the government purposely breaks up families in Oceania. The pieces of these hollow and artificial families are the building blocks of the vast and manipulative party. Families need to be non-existent so that the people cannot unite or feel loved. Right? Party needs to have total control over the children. Right? In Oceania, it is normal to turn other people in when you have any suspicions that the person does not have genuine love for the party. Even family members give each other up. Right? And this just goes on to kind of describe, I mean, look, and if y'all ain't, seen or read 1984, I'm not going to go all the way into it, but I'm sorry. When I was watching Michelle Obama give that speech, that's all I could think about. I was like, yo, what the fuck is going on here? Right? Like, are we really gonna just be sitting there saying, like, yo, fuck what your family say? We just gonna do whatever? Right? Like I said, with Black families, especially being in such a like crazy situation, right? And all of a sudden, we just gonna say, yo, it don't matter what your family say, just do whatever. Just make sure you vote correctly. Like, am I tripping? Or is that just some 1984 shit like I just read you guys? Right? But oh no, I have a hunch, right? I have a hunch about why the Obamas are coming out like this, right? Because I think that a fourth term for Barack Obama is on the ledger right now, and people are going to possibly vote for that. And I know some of y'all are like, Sky, well, what do you mean fourth term? Obama didn't even have a third term. Like, a president can't be president more than twice, right? Like, so how would he get a fourth term if he didn't get a third term? Well, let me play this video and then I'll speak for a little bit afterwards, and then you guys will maybe get a sense of what I'm saying.
What you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. Wow. I'd be fine with that.
So Obama says, if I can have somebody stand in for me and kind of make all the, like be the front man while I'm in the background making all of the decisions, then I would probably be up for that. So, okay, your vice president gets elected under dubious circumstances, to say the least, right? 2020 was kind of a wild thing. Most other countries in the world don't use mail-in ballots like that. It seems to be kind of counterintuitive to having a safe election, but whatever. But your vice president wins. From the very beginning, there's questions about his age and competency. For 3.5 years, anybody that brought it up got called a conspiracy theorist and all this stuff, right? But once that debate happened and we all got a good look at Joe Biden and exactly the shape that he was in, it became clear that more than likely he hadn't been running the White House even recently, right? Even recently, when Joe Biden was hanging out at the beach for all those days, right? And he was eating ice cream on the beach and having a good time and enjoying the end of his summer, right? Who was running the White House? People were having these questions, right? Like, yo, because Kamala's out on the campaign trail. Like, who the hell is running the country? Right? It was a very odd time, and we all started to become aware that more than likely Joe Biden was not in control of the government, which would lead me to ask, well, who would be then? Could it have been the guy that was president before and said, hey, I'll be president if somebody can stand in and be the front man? Right? It's crazy. It's crazy. Right? And before I get into some of these other things, I also want to say this. Because I think that Michelle Obama is cool. Like, I liked her back when she was in, office, and I was still voting Democrat, obviously, and when I was serving for Obama and all that. But I just have to say this. It seems like they're trying to set her up as like the next kind of like Hillary Clinton, who was the first lady, and then all of a sudden she's like Secretary of State and doing all this stuff. I'm not interested. Right? I'm not interested. To my knowledge, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but she's never like governed anything in her life, was never like elected to any kind of public office that I'm aware of. Was she like a small business owner that built like a big company or something? Because even Trump did that. Like he didn't have like the political background, but he did have the business background. And I say that to say this, because I thought about this fucking scenario. Like, yo, if like I have a problem with my sink and I call a plumber, and I'm talking with my plumber about what has to go down or whatever, right? And he's kind of telling me what the game plan is. And all of a sudden, like his wife walked in and his wife wanted to tell me what I should do, unless she had like plumbing experience up to or like surpassing the level of her husband, I would not care. Right. And it would be the same scenario, even if the roles were reversed. Like, I'm going to be having surgery next month. My surgeon is a woman. Right. Now, if while I was talking to her and we're going over what the recovery process is going to be like, right, and like what they're going to be doing and all that, and her husband walked in, who didn't have the experience that she had, or, wasn't in the same field, I would not care about what her husband had to say. Right? I would not care at all. And like the fact that, her words hold so much weight is kind of crazy to me. Just being honest. I don't, when I see her, especially now, and when I listen to her, I'm not hearing somebody that's trying to speak truth, or like trying to really get to the, I just see somebody who is pushing an agenda, and honestly somebody who really just will say kind of whatever, to get her point across, right? And to kind of drive that message home. And we about to dig into her husband right now, because like, to hear Obama kind of come back now and make a lot of the statements that he's been making, it's just really wild to me. So we're gonna go through some of the history of Obama, right? And kind of like stuff that was happening while he was in like office. And we're gonna kind of juxtapose that to like what happened, because it seems to be a very consistent thing, right? Like from his term to things going way different under Donald Trump for some reason. And then all of a sudden, when Biden and Harris came back in, we got way back over here on this other side. And we're going to talk about some stuff, because I don't know if some of you guys know a lot of this. Like, I know, because I got a few friends that like watch my platform, and they be telling me like, yo, I didn't know any of this stuff. So we're going to talk about it, right? Next, let's discuss, Obama and how he got down when it came to treating his U.S. citizens, right? Because Obama had some questionable things that happened under his stewardship, right? But when you hear, you're like, hey, Donald Trump's a fascist, he's a racist, he's gonna turn, he's gonna turn into a dictator, he's gonna have you guys back in chains, he's gonna turn the military against the American people, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do right. Like, I just be hearing these things, and I'm like, do people not know kind of like what the history is with this guy, and just the decisions from this side of the party, just in general? But let's take this reminder first, and then we'll kind of go down and actually do like some deep diving into some other videos. But let's go ahead and hear what is this lovely representative had to say.
Wow. The hysteria related to Donald Trump is off the charts, and I think it exposes the raw politics behind it. I have a couple of points I'd like to make. The only president who I am aware of who actually assassinated American citizens was President Obama. So perhaps the ranking member should revisit her history books. I have an article here from the ACLU stating the ACLU and CCR have filed a lawsuit challenging the government's targeted killing of 3 U.S. citizens in drone strikes far from any armed conflict zone. In Al-Awlaki versus Panetta, the group charges that the U.S. government's killings of U.S. citizens in Yemen last year violated the Constitution's fundamental guarantee against the deprivation of life without due process of law. The killings under Obama were part of a broader program of targeted killing by the United States outside of the context of armed conflict and based on vague legal standards, a closed executive process, and evidence never presented to the courts. And as for kids in cages, again, that was President Obama. Several former Obama administration officials took to social media and news outlets last month to explain a gallery of years-old photos that showed immigrant children sleeping in shoddy conditions at a government-run holding facility in Arizona. The images, which the Associated Press first published in 2014 during the Obama administration, resurfaced recently for reasons that remain unclear and quickly prompted viral outrage on Twitter. One particularly disturbing image showed two children sleeping on mattresses on the floor inside what appeared to be a cage. A number of prominent liberals and even a former Obama administration official shared the photos, mistakenly believing that they depicted the Trump administration's treatment of immigrant children who were forcibly separated from their parents. John Favreau, who worked as a speechwriter for former President Barack Obama, tweeted, "This is happening right now, and the only debate that matters is how we force our government to get these kids back to their families as fast as humanly possible." Favreau said he later deleted the tweet after social media users pointed out that the photos were taken during the Obama administration. So, I think it's important to correct the record as to actually who assassinated American citizens, being President Obama, and it being President Obama who kept kids in cages. Now, as this committee uncovers more and more censorship activities by the federal government, one thing we are wrestling with is accountability for these bad actors violating the First Amendment. They are already not elected by the citizens, so don't have to answer to the electorate, and certain accountability statutes, such as 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, only apply to state employees, which is why Mr. Bishop and I have introduced the Censorship Accountability Act to actually hold federal employees personally liable for violating the First Amendment of American citizens. But even in those circumstances where one can go to courts for relief, that requires a great deal of time and resources to prove liability, harm, and then obtain relief. It is apparent from the ongoing Missouri versus Biden case that all of these bad actors, it makes it difficult to eventually hold them accountable. Ms. Richardson, I highlight these things to show that accountability can be hard to achieve for injured Americans. Do you think this could be further exacerbated if certain activities that facilitate censorship are increasingly done by AI systems rather than government employees?
I do. I think that what these tools open the potential for is...
All right, now they about to get into another part of the conversation, but y'all heard it, right? We got drone strikes that took out American citizens, right? Kids in cages, right? Which they were saying, hey, Trump was going to do that, right? And we got spying on a massive level, which we're going to get into spying later, right? But yeah, like, are we just going to forget that he actually like took out Americans? I mean, did everybody just forget that? 3 citizens that were labeled as terrorists with no due process, you know, were taken out abroad, right? But then when they were talking about, hey, Trump wants immunity from all prosecution, why wasn't Obama prosecuted for that, right? I mean, let's get into that. I mean, I think we have somebody that might be able to explain it a little bit better. Let's check that out too.
You'll recall that during the Obama administration, he ordered a drone strike on individuals that he had labeled as terrorists, and the result was that U.S. citizens were killed. That raised a great deal of criticism. If a president did not have immunity for such actions from criminal prosecution, then when the next administration came in that was hostile to him, in this case, the Trump administration, They could have initiated a prosecution against the president for that drone strike under a very specific federal statute. It's 18 U.S.C. 956, which makes it a crime to, in this country, conspire to kill, injure, maim a person in another country. Without immunity, Obama could have been prosecuted. I don't think he should be. But that's an example of how this question applies to all presidents. It doesn't matter which political party they're in.
Right? But but Trump wants to, Trump wants to assassinate U.S. citizens and all that, right? And then Sin Havoc says, well, the DOD just approved the military and the National Guard to attack the civilians. And you know what's wild is who's in office right now, Sin Havoc? Whose DOD would that be? Right? Right? No, we're going to get into that too, Sin Havoc. Nah, I mean, we getting into all that, right? But no, like, I'm hearing all this stuff about, hey, Trump on immunity. He's going to be attacking the citizens. He's going to be taking y'all out, putting y'all. Bro, are we going to act like this shit didn't happen? Are we going to act like, this wasn't a conversation? Especially once the whole immunity thing came up. Wasn't even just for Obama either, right? Because if you were going to do what you did with Trump, you could have sent all them jokers to prison, bruh. Right? Don't believe me?
The implications of the court's decision here extend far beyond the facts of this case. Could President George W. Bush have been sent to prison for obstructing an official proceeding or allegedly lying to Congress to induce war in Iraq? Could President Obama be charged with murder for killing U.S. citizens abroad by drone strike? Could President Biden someday be charged with unlawfully inducing immigrants to enter the country illegally for his border policies? The answer to all these questions is no. Prosecuting the president for his official acts is an innovation with no foothold in history or tradition and incompatible with our constitutional structure.
Right? But yet, no. Trump wants to do this. Trump wants to do that. Right? Oh my God. The world around, they don't respect Trump. They don't respect us. They laugh at us. Right? Bruh. Do you know, I got this President drone strike as part of the band. Do you know that that's what they used to call this guy? Right? And for those of you guys that haven't been overseas, any of these kind of areas, right? Because I understand that not a lot of you have, that typically get hit by these types of things, right? There is no like real warning. A lot of times you can't really see them or barely see the drone, right? And then all of a sudden there's just an explosion. A lot of times there are innocent people that are, more often than not. I would say, I would figure that almost every time they did one of these, there was probably an innocent civilian that was injured, to say the least. Right? But yet, that doesn't seem to come up when we talk about these things, right? And we discuss the type of presidency that he had. So when he comes back out, well, he and his wife, when they come back out and they try to lecture us about, morality or like what the state of the world was, right? Or their own past transgressions. No, some of us that were here, we remember what was happening, right? Here's another one with them pretty much talking about him possibly being charged because of these actions with him taking out U.S. citizens.
How about President Obama's drone strikes?
So the Office of Legal Counsel looked at this very carefully and determined that, number one, the federal murder statute does apply to the executive branch. The president wasn't personally carrying out the strike, but the aiding and abetting laws are broad. And it determined that a public authority exception that's built into statutes and that applied particularly to the murder statute because it talks about unlawful killing did not apply to the drone strike. So this is actually the way that the system should function. The Department of Justice takes criminal law very seriously. It runs it through the analysis very carefully with established principles. It documents them, it explains them, and then the president can go forward in accordance with it. And there is no risk of prosecution for that course of activity.
Thank you for
Right, yeah. This is crazy, right? Right, yeah. Olsen Fresh said DC Anton Daniels cooked Biden's presidency versus Trump's. He dropped receipts. What's funny is that I actually have a clip from Anton on Fox News, and I got like the longer segment too, which I might play if y'all want me to. But I actually have a clip from him that I'm gonna play. Later. Says he was also toppling other governments. Yeah. Right, 7 to 9 countries in 5 years, bro. Yemen was getting bombed, right? It was all types of countries that we were drone striking that people didn't even know that we were at any type of odds with, right? And I'm gonna show you guys, or like bring you guys like some numbers from just like one country. Obama is the warmonger that the media claims Trump. Bro, this is true. Right? Like, nah. Remember, y'all, Trump, no new wars, nothing was popping off, everything was fine. Let's juxtapose that to this.
President Obama also said, he's talking about a quote truth decay in American politics accelerated by Obama. So, accelerated by President Trump. But I want to get back to, again, what happened under his administration? His administration set a new historic record for spending more than $36 million to defend his administration censoring and withholding government documents sought under the FOIA Act. And also President Obama, he compared Trump to a dictator who thinks he can, quote, kill people. You noted this, that Obama authorized more than 500 drone strikes across Africa, the Mideast, and South Central Asia, killing more than 300 civilians. That went on too. So there's a context here. Your final word,
including an American was among the people droned. And so our president has brought people home. Our president has put America first, and our president is against the wars. And so, Barack Obama is simply deflecting and projecting, and he has no credibility in this regard.
All right, Harmeet Dillon, it's good to see you. Come back soon.
Thank you.
Over 500 drone strikes, over 300 innocent civilians, which honestly, that number's way higher. That number is way higher. It's way higher. And thousands of people killed. Overall, thousands. Right? So when I hear lecturing from these people about why Donald Trump is going to be like, oh my God, like this, I ain't going to say that word, but y'all know who they keep comparing him to. Y'all know who they keep comparing him to, right? But yet and still, they got these checkered paths, to say the least. I think it's ridiculous, yo. Right? Also, this is going to be the last one on these strikes, but I want y'all to notice the similarities between kind of like what was being discussed then and what's being discussed now. But let's go ahead and get into that, and then we'll move the conversation forward a little bit.
Joining me right now is Georgia Congressman, Judiciary Committee Ranking Member Doug Collins. Congressman, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Tell us about Nancy Pelosi's resolution and how that plays out in the House today.
Well, I think it's become amazing to me, Maria, and we've talked about this before. They absolutely have no agenda. This is, for the Democratic Party to have ran on this agenda of we the people and we're going to for the people and all this. Right now, all they're doing is simply going around. It seems to me like they're throwing darts against the board. They're putting the headlines in the paper and saying, here's what we're going to work on. They're actually going to do a war powers resolution. We've been talking about the issue in the Middle East, and so this week, this is not about War Powers Act. This is not about, Congress control. This is about slapping at the president, who they don't like. It's about the 2020 election. Here's an interesting issue. Where was Nancy Pelosi yelling about an issue needed for the War Powers Resolution or others when the drone strikes, which were up during the Obama administration, were all over the place? This is simply political because they have no agenda. They're trying, again, to do a sort of a shuffling. Say, American people, don't look at what we're actually supposed to be doing. Look at this shiny object over here, because we're stuck in impeachment. We're stuck here, and we don't have an agenda to actually put forward. So we're just going to attack the president with this phony, basically, resolution this week that'll go nowhere.
Well, that's what's happening. We're looking, as you're talking, at live pictures of Tehran, Congressman, and in Tehran they're mourning Soleimani's death, and there are crowds in the street in Iran. And the question I asked earlier is, how dangerous is it that you've got such a dangerous situation unfolding with Iran and the U.S. And at home you've got half of the Congress against this president, trying to limit his powers?
Well, it is concerning. And I think when you have a concern here that where you have the Democrats playing politics, far more with a world situation than they are focused on what actually can be done in the world and the real dangers of the world of Iran. Let's not forget who we're dealing with here. Iran is the world exporter of terror. That's their export. You can talk about oil and energy and everything else, but their real damage to this world is that they're an exporter of terror. And Soleimani is someone who is the top chief lieutenant, prince of terror, if you want to put it that way, who needed to be taken out. I think the president made a strong statement after the continued work of Iran disrupting Iraq, disrupting the things happening in Iraq, and then the attack on our embassy. He made a forceful statement. Now, for these Democratic candidates who keep saying, well, we have no plan past that, we have a plan. Secretary Pompeo talked about it. The Defense Department is ready for what Iran may throw at us. But the question is how long are we going to let Iran continue to kill Americans and kill others in the world without being stood up to? The president is doing that, but right now we're playing politics with it in the Democratic House and these Democratic candidates who want them to believe that there's somehow now that the president has pushed us to the brink of war. Iran has been attacking us for years and attacking the world. It was time for an action. The president made that action. Now we will deal with that going forward, but we're not going to do it with phony shows of votes in the Democratic House while she's sitting there holding impeachment articles over this president as if she has some control over the Senate. We need to get straight and get back to the work of the American people. The president's shown how to do that. Trade deals. We've signed that we're going to work on USMCA this week in the Senate. We've got the China deal coming up. Where is infrastructure? Where is immigration work? Where are the part? Right now, this speaker is failing America, and she's putting us in a weaker position in the eyes of many in the world by not standing up and saying we support our president as he fights against terror in the world.
Man, where's the infrastructure? Where's the immigration stuff going? Like, what's up with all that? Right? I don't know, man. These are what I feel are valid questions. And it's just funny to me that it seems that, you know, even as all this time passes, the same shit going on. Trump is bad no matter what, you know. Hey, you know, shutting the border down is wrong, but Barack Obama was the deporter in chief. That was another nickname that he had, right? See, way like across the pond, he had the nickname President Drone Strike. Down south and here, like down south of the border, and here he was the deporter in chief. See, he just had nicknames all around this month. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see, the man of many names. Right? I go by many names. Right? But no, well, but also, so not only were there the murder of US citizens, not only was there rampant drone strikes around the world, but also you had the spying on American citizens. That was, you know, started with the Patriot Act by George Bush, the second one, right? After 9/11 took place. So after the Patriot Act, Obama came in and kind of like doubled down and made the shit worse. You know what I'm saying? Like one could say. Right? Oh, yeah. One more thing on the drone strikes, right? Y'all know that he did, you know, his first drone strike, you know, 3 days into his presidency. 2 drone strikes, 3 hours apart in Pakistan, killed as many as 20 civilians. Just wanted to throw that in there, right? But no, also, this was another thing that Obama did at the start of his second term, right? HR 4310, right? Which pretty much made it legal, right, for them to put propaganda in your media. Right? You had, yep, the FISA or FISA courts, however you want to pronounce that, right? But no, it was rampant spying. And literally, Barack Obama made it legal for them to propagandize you. Right? Read what is on screen. Right? Read what is on screen and tell me I'm lying. Does that or does that not say that they can put propaganda out to you? It was illegal, but then under Obama, it wasn't. Right? It had been in place since 1948, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, 1948. Right up there at the top. Right? So Barack Obama spying on y'all, made it legal for them to propagandize y'all, right? Let's get into this spying. They were up front. This lady that I'm about to play, Maxine Waters, she from out here. She about to tell you what's up.
Look, this is the inauguration represented the beginning of his second term.
Yes.
But it also represented the countdown of the end of his presidency.
That's right.
And the reality is, like anything else, you better get what you can while he's there because, look, come 2016, that's it.
Well, you know, I don't know, and I think some people are missing something here. The president has put in place an organization that contains a kind of database that no one has ever seen before in life. That's going to be very, very powerful. And whoever...
In terms of the Organizing for America that he's now shifting to become a 501c4.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that database will have information about everything on every individual in ways that it's never been done before.
A database, you say? Like we've never seen before. With information on anything and everything and everybody. Right? Said media was bought by corporations a long time ago, and BlackRock owns 90% of the media now. Bishop say that's why they feel so free to be able to tell lies in the media now constantly without any repercussions, because there will be none. There will be no repercussions. You just and why won't there be any repercussions, Bishop? Because of whom? Right? Says that don't sound like democracy to me, right? But that's what I'm saying, bro. But Trump is the threat to democracy, though. Right? Operation High Jump. Right? Oh yeah, they was up there jumping, all right, right? But no, they was look, let's hear from Edward Snowden.
I applied for asylum in 27 different countries around the world. Traditional U.S. allies, places like France and Germany, places like Norway, that I felt the U.S. government and the American public could be comfortable that was fine for a whistleblower to be in. And yet every time one of these governments got close to opening their doors, the phone would ring, and they're in their foreign ministries. And on the other end of the line would be a very senior American official. It was one of two people, then Secretary of State John Kerry or then Vice President Joe Biden. And they would say, look, we don't care what the law is. We don't care if you can do this or not. We understand that protecting whistleblowers and granting asylum is a matter of human rights, and you could do this if you want to. But if you protect this man, if you let this guy out of Russia, there will be consequences. We're not going to say what they're going to be, but there will be a response. I continue to this day to say, look, if the United States government, if these countries are willing to open the door, that is not a hostile act. That is the act of a friend. If anything, if the United States government is so concerned about Russia, right, shouldn't they be happy for me to leave? And yet we see they're trying so hard to prevent me from leaving. I would ask you, why is that?
I'm guessing Joe Biden is not your candidate for 2020?
Actually, I don't take a position on the 2020 race. Look, it's a difficult position being in the executive branch. It's a difficult position being in power, and you have to make unpopular decisions. I would like to think, having seen now in 2019 that all of the allegations against me did not come true. National security was not harmed as a result of these disclosures. But they did win the...
So, you got Edward Snowden there saying, hey, when I let y'all know that the government was spying on y'all, ain't nothing happened, right? I should have been able to come back. But no, Joe Biden, who was Obama's vice president, was putting calls in saying, nah, don't let Snowden go nowhere. He can't leave, bruh. Right? Right? What's going on, HMDS? Man, been cooking. Right now, we going through we in the spying segment of the stream. You know what I'm saying? So no, like, so there was rampant spying happening during his presidency. He allowed the government to propagandize the American population, right? You know, and some of it even go back to, I mean, when you look at these things, how do you not, like, if you're Barack, how do you dare come out here and be trying to lecture people, bro? That's the part that I don't get. It's like there's no self-awareness, right? This is kind of a longer one, but I want you guys to hear this. This is RFK, right? Speaking about the difference in like surveillance between now and back then, right? I want y'all to check out a good portion of this conversation because RFK was cooking. Yeah, I don't think a lot of these things get brought to the forefront enough, and I'm kind of upset that it takes, someone like me to come out and have these conversations after Barack has to come out and say all this dumb shit, and for Michelle to come out here and be weaponizing the Democratic Party against the black family, in my opinion, is just crazy. But nah, let's see what RFK got to say about the subject when it comes to like surveillance and spying and all that stuff, and kind of like where this came from or where it got exacerbated in this modern age.
So you mentioned the EPA, the administrative agencies like the CIA and the FBI, and your uncle, John F. Kennedy, expressed desire to, quote, splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the winds, unquote. I myself have been raided by the FBI. I'm one of the few, if not the only, journalist in American history to be raided by FBI agents who took my and my colleagues' journalist notes, and the ACLU came to my defense, which is, I think, a good thing. But in terms of these agencies, going back to my question about, was it always this bad? J. Edgar Hoover was the head of the FBI 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Was it worse back then? Is it as bad? Is it getting worse now? How would you compare present day to when your uncle was president?
You mean with the enforcement agencies?
Yes.
I think it's more insidious today because of the technologies of control. Back then, back then you had really terrible people running the agency, like Alan Dulles and James Jesus Angleton, Frank Wisner, people who were genuinely murderous and felt like there was no, controls on their behavior. And they started Operation Mockingbird at that point, which was an operation to compromise American journalists. So they had about 400 journalists that we know of. Carl Bernstein wrote an article about Mockingbird around 1975 or 76 in Rolling Stone. And at that point, I think there were some 400 editors, journalists, from all the largest publications. The New York Times had been compromised. The Washington Post was basically...
What do you mean by compromised for people who...
Well, they were functioning. The high-level people at those journals were working for the agency or had signed secrecy agreements with those agencies, with the CIA, and at CBS, ABC, NBC, high-level journalists. So today, today that's going on. After 75, when it all came out, during the Church Committee hearings, the CIA promised that it would no longer compromise American journalists. It continued the program to compromise journalists all over the world. And today, the CIA is the biggest funder of journalism in the world.
And how about present day?
They fund it through USAID. But in 2016, Obama, there's a provision in the CIA charter that says that the CIA cannot propagandize the American people. President Obama adopted and I think it was through an executive order in 2016, that essentially reopened the door for Operation Mockingbird so that the CIA began once again to propagandize American people.
How are they doing that presently?
Well, I mean, we know that they did it. We've published articles on the CHD website that shows the journals that appear now where high-level intelligence officials are, or people associated with the intelligence industry are running those journals, like Noah Schlackman, who runs Rolling Stone, who came from Daily Beast. Daily Beast was run by John Avalon, who has deep ties to the intelligence agencies. But even journals like Smithsonian and National Geographic, Nature, the Washington Post, the New York Times appear to be compromised by the CIA. We know from the Twitter files that both the FBI and CIA were operating portals within the Twitter and Facebook that allowed them to manipulate information and to deplatform people and to silence certain people that they didn't like in the social media. So, but the answer to the big answer to your question is the problem is today that is frightening is that with AI, with artificial intelligence, and with all of these surveillance, like facial recognition systems, the satellite systems that are now, I think we're going to have 415,000 low-altitude satellites, where they can look at every square inch of the Earth at 24 hours a day. They have technology now that can look through walls, and just surveillance technology. We're all under surveillance. Your GPS, your cell phone is spying on you. We're carrying around these devices that are all spying on us, or all have the capacity to spy on us, and of course they are.
To what end?
What?
To what end?
Well, I mean, the thing that's financing most of this is our commercial and mercantile interests. So you start talking, I mean, I'm sure you've had this experience where you say, I need a better mattress, I can't sleep at night, and then 20 minutes later you get this, a bunch of mattress ads on your cell phone. Well, they're listening to you. And that's kind of innocuous and actually convenient. That they're listening to you and then putting up, solutions
so the
to your
regulatory
problem.
capture.
But the government also is listening to you. And if you're doing something that, if you are doing something that involves dissent or disobedience to government mandates, it's quite possible that there's some government agency that's keeping track of that. And that's scary.
Obama opened the door for pretty much like all that bullshit that we got out, that we had supposedly gotten out of our media. He opened it up for it to all come back. Right? Just heard that from RFK. I just don't understand how this guy comes out of here and tries to fucking lecture people. It's like, bro, he said, watch Enemy of the State with Will Smith. I love that movie. Right? With Will Smith and Gene Hackman, if I'm not mistaken, right? But no, this is the guy that we should be listening to, on like, hey, it's all good, right? Like, they're the bad guys. They're the ones with the spotty past, right? They're the ones that are doing all this stuff. They're the ones that want to take your freedoms away. Right? Trump want to lock up his political fucking opponents, even though we put wiretaps on his phone, right? Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that too.
I think what's scary is I do not believe that the 2016 election was the first rodeo on this kind of activity. There is evidence, a FISA court opinion in 2017 that talks about the Obama administration violating FISA going back to 2012. There's also evidence of how they went against their political opponents. If you remember, Mike Flynn was a thorn in the side of the Obama administration.
Could you imagine the deputy FBI director bragging he said you don't need an attorney, and an FBI director saying he took advantage of the chaos, setting up a 33-year vet?
Let's go back to 2014 when they set him up with that Russian woman and then had people immediately start typing that they were having an affair when we know that that's false, and she is now suing. And if that were true, you think she'd be suing? No, she just filed a lawsuit last week. There is evidence that this started in the early days of the second term of President Obama, and they just got better.
Does this go all the way to the Oval Office? You're
Absolutely.
jumping ahead of me, but I planned on getting that.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, right? Nah, what happened in 2016, right? Like, what is she talking about? Is it the fact that Obama will, put wiretaps on Donald Trump's phone, right? Said Obama had Anthony Blinken in his cabinet. He's Biden Secretary of State, and he's connected to BlackRock. But like, that's what they want us to just like not talk about. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. And they wanted us to vote. Crazy, bro. Right? What's going on, Shin? He said, "My vote is in, baby." Trump 22. Hey, look, y'all get on out there and vote. I don't care who y'all vote for. I'm just here speaking my truth, right? But not is this the last of the spy section, right? But let's get to wiretaps though, because look, not only have in the days since have they been trying to, lock Trump up. Crazy lunatic tried to shoot him in the head, and somebody else tried to shoot him with an AK-47 at a golf course, right? But nah, this goes back. Like, Obama was even wiretapping Donald as soon as he get. Look, y'all don't believe me? You don't believe?
Well, let's first of all dismiss Ben Rhodes' comment as the designated liar for President Obama. He doesn't matter. The bottom line is they did wiretap Trump Tower. They tapped a server that they thought was communicating somehow with Russia. They asked for that warrant and were denied, and then went back again, got the warrant, found out there was nothing happening, and then went ahead and continued monitoring it. I mean, this is a legitimate charge, and we need a serious investigation.
Tony Schaefer, I wonder, I'm assuming then, since the Obama administration was so concerned about what foreign governments are doing, they were probably looking into Hillary Clinton's server as well. What do you think?
Doubtful, but they should have been. I mean, the fairness here is that you need to be doing both. There was clear indication that the Clinton folks were doing it. And let me be very clear to follow up what Jim just said. And let me push back against Geraldo's idiotic comments earlier. In national security law, you have to have a very high confidence that you're going to do something to tap someone's stuff. And in a situation like this, it has to be even higher. So what Geraldo said was completely inaccurate. You, in this case, you had to make a clear, concise case of interrogatories. And let me say something else, and this is something else we have to worry about, is that the president, as we know under President Bush, can use NSA under what we call Title X military conditions. And so there's ways of getting around the so-called oversight rules that he could have done.
Jim, the next step on this is the president obviously confident if he's tweeting it this morning, but evidence and the ability to prove it is going to be a next step if they want to move the ball forward. How would they do that, Jim?
Well, they did get a FISA warrant, so he doesn't have to prove that they wiretapped him. They did wiretap him. The question is, now, how deep does this conspiracy go? Why was President Obama's administration wiretapping a presidential candidate during the campaign? Who else was involved? Was this coordinated with the leaks that were coming out during the campaign, the leaks that came out during the transition, and the sustained attack on the Trump administration by former Obama officials? It seems to me there is a just cause for looking at that.
Tony, I want to give you the last word because you're always on top of these things. Very quickly, though, I want to defend our colleague Geraldo. We don't want to throw any, he's entitled to his opinion.
Oh, if he were here, he would jump right in.
I just want to make that clear. But quick 15 seconds, where does this go next?
Well, you have to actually, as Jim said, go back and look at everything. You've got to look at all the mechanisms which were employed, what the authorizations, if any, and then.
Right. So you wiretapping, right? He said, ain't that election interference? Bro, that's what I'm saying, dude. Bro. But then they just be like, yo, like, you know, Trump, orange man bad. This shit is crazy. I'm like, it ain't election interference, y'all. Bro, okay, the DA, excuse me, the Attorney General of Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, is Fonnie Willis, or she's just a DA. But either way, went and met with Kamala Harris right before filing charges on Donald Trump. How in the hell is that not election interference, bro? Like, how does anybody explain that? Nobody has been able to give me a valid explanation of that yet, of why she went and met with Kamala Harris at the White House shortly before filing all those charges. You know? But nah, so, yo, we got taking out U.S. citizens, bro. Almost being able to be charged with war crimes, possibly, right? Drone strikes all around the world, spying on your own citizens, allowing your citizens to be propagandized, wiretapping your presidential candidates, right? That's coming in after you, right? Benghazi, right? Let's talk about Benghazi real quick, right? Let's take a look at what Obama said first and then what the truth was later.
The ambassador to Libya killed in an attack on the consulate in Benghazi. Right. Is this an act of war? Are we at war now?
No.
What happens here?
Well, here's what happened. You had a video that was released by somebody who lives here, sort of a shadowy character who is an extremely offensive video directed at Muhammad and Islam.
Making fun of the Prophet Muhammad.
Making fun of the Prophet Muhammad. And so this caused great offense in much of the Muslim world. But what also happened was extremists and terrorists used this as an excuse to attack a variety of our embassies, including the consulate in Libya. And the irony is the ambassador, Chris Stevens, he was the person who was first in Libya and helped to advise us in liberating Libya from Muammar Gaddafi, the former dictator there. And as offensive as this video was, and obviously we've denounced it and the United States government had nothing to do with it, that's never an excuse for violence.
So, I mean, not only could I get into the Gaddafi situation, but that's a whole other stream, right? But even with this right there, you heard it. They got mad over a video, right? That's what happened, y'all. They got mad over a video. They flipped out. That's why the Libyan ambassador got killed. That's why the U.S. citizens were killed, right? Why we couldn't send no help to those people, right? Is because they got mad over a video, right? The only problem with that is, like Donald Trump is going to bring up in 1 second, it turns out that they kind of knew it was a terror attack from the beginning, which is kind of what the problem was and why people didn't like Hillary Clinton so much around the country, because they knew what happened, right? But let's hear Trump kind of talk about it, the Benghazi situation. And he kind of highlights that, hey, they kind of knew it was a terror attack.
Response, Hillary Clinton.
Like a one-word response, I sort of think of Benghazi. I think of a failed Secretary of State, but Benghazi was a disaster. And amazingly, I don't think it resonated like it should have, but Benghazi was a total disaster.
We learned today that, in fact, they knew from the first minutes of that attack that it was a terror attack, which I think will become a bigger issue. Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Barack Obama.
Incompetent president.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, like they knew from the beginning that it was a terror attack, and they came out and told everybody no. They got mad over a video. You know, hey, I didn't say that. Obama did. Right? And it seems like him just kind of, having to admit things later, or things coming out later, it seems to be a track record of his, right? Because something else that happened, and I'll kind of throw this in with the Benghazi thing, is that, we look at all these things that are happening in like Russia and Ukraine and all that. We could honestly point back to a time back when Obama was in office, when Putin annexed Crimea, right? And I remember very, very clearly how much it was all across my TV screen, how much of a bad guy that Putin was, because he went in there and took Crimea. They said, yo, he invaded Crimea and all these things, right? That's all I used to hear. But then, suddenly Obama kind of admitted that that's not what the case was. And it kind of was a different situation. But it's just strange because, like, back then, that ain't what I used to hear. Right? So not only is the whole Russia-Ukraine thing kind of traced back to, that's on your plate too, bro. Which nothing happened when Trump was in office. And then all of a sudden, Obama term 3 pop up. And then all of a sudden, Ukraine and Russia are back at odds again. But let's check out Obama coming back later and saying, hey, actually, that whole Putin annexing Crimea thing kind of didn't go down the way that we said it did back then. But let's hear it in his own words.
I think the Ukraine of that time is not the Ukraine that we're talking about today. There's a reason why there was not an armed invasion of Crimea, because Crimea was full of a lot of Russian speakers, and there was some sympathy to the view that Russia was representing its interests. The Rada at the time, the Ukrainian parliament itself, still had a number of Russian sympathizers, and the politics inside Ukraine were more complicated. And part of what happened was both myself, but also Merkel, who I give enormous credit for, had to pull in a lot of other Europeans kicking and screaming to impose the sanctions that we did and to prevent Putin from continuing through the Donbass into the rest of Ukraine.
Guess it wasn't that serious, y'all. I guess it wasn't the same kind of thing. Even though, you know, this whole kind of shit started bubbling back then. What was that, like 2014? Right? You know? What's going on, El Necron? Right? But yeah, like all these things is going on. All these stories being changed after a while. This is strange, yo. But let's go into the last, you know, because if y'all been noticing, this has been like a double topic kind of show, right? So let's go on to the last two topics. But you know, I wanted to save this one for last because this is a thing that's kind of touchy for me, right? I don't like what I'm about to have to say, but I have to say it because it's the truth, in my opinion. This is my truth. This is why I come here and have these conversations. This is what I feel and what I need to get out there, and I need to be known, right? Obviously, right, while, you know, I've grown up in a, like, yo, I grew up in the hood, so to speak, right? Like, you know, I'm from Inglewood, you know what I'm saying? I used to stay in the jungles, yo. Like, I grew up in the hood. Like, it's in me. You know what I mean? That's where those was my stomping grounds. You dig? All the way from, you know, elementary through high school, because it was in the hood like that. So I know all of the things that come with living in these areas. I know of how things were before my time, right? And while I know that I grew up in a different America than some of the prior generations did, I still internalized almost all of these stories, and I carried them with me through my life and through my, you know, dealings, especially with like police and just in general, right? There's all these things that, you know, you have to learn when you grew up in these type of areas, right? So I have had my run-ins with the police. Uh, I have had multiple situations happen that I did not like, right? And, you know, especially being in Inglewood back then, you didn't have too many like white people there living or going to the schools or stuff like that. So a lot of my interactions with white people were through the police, right? And, you know, of course, certain things happened, as I just said earlier, that I did not like, you know, that I felt was very racist at the time, you know, and even some of that stuff I still think was right. But at the same time, I have had, you know, my rights violated by cops of all colors, right? You know, I'll just kind of leave it at that. So while there has been a lot of rhetoric, and I'm gonna play some videos that kind of speak to that in 1 second, but while there has been a lot of rhetoric that like the racial tension has been dialed up ever since Trump came into office, or the racist people feel more comfortable and things of that nature, I vehemently disagree. I remember the racial tension being at its highest when Barack Obama was in office, right? And I'll tell you guys why, right? That was, first of all, the birth of BLM and Black Lives Matter, which I'm going to get into them in 1 second. But it was like the birth of Black Lives Matter, which in hindsight was a very divisive group. Right now, the concept of Black Lives Mattering, of course, I would never argue against that, and that's why this thing became so much of a lightning rod of a topic. It was because you have people that saying, yo, of course Black Lives Matter. And when you say that, it's like an of course thing. But then when you look into the actual organization, right, that was getting the bulk of the funding, the bulk of the support, and for the first time, it was like, hey, we really had the attention of everybody, and everybody was pouring money into this organization from around the world, right? And this organization did not have Black people or Black agendas or Black ideas or whatever at the forefront of what they were doing at all, right? And wait, so you also had that, but then also you have to think, when did Trayvon Martin happen? When did Tamir Rice happen? Right? The most egregious of them all, which I was even having a conversation with Leon, I think, and we both was kind of agreeing that we think that Philando Castile situation kind of like sent some weird vibrations out, because I was telling him about how stuff got like real tense and chaotic in my life around that time. And then he was describing how like he was kind of experiencing the same thing. And when you talk to a lot of Black people around that time, they just have stories of like shit just being chaotic around the time of the Philando Castile video being released. Like, I really think that us kind of seeing that video, it kind of triggered something, right? He says BLM hijacked the grassroots movement that actually fighting against the injustice, right? Oh no, then actually fighting against injustice. Yep, see, absolutely. Oh, Fresh says, I remember during the Trayvon situation, Obama was dancing around the issue. Not only just that, I remember when Tamir Rice passed and he came out and just started crying. Y'all remember that? Right? That's when I remember, right? Because I think the Mike Brown thing happened when he was in office. Like, how many of these police shootings started happening under Obama? Right? But he was all in on BLM. Right? And we're going to get to them in 1 second. But let's hear from somebody saying, yo, just how much that Obama is into BLM real quick.
It's a war on cops. And the Obama administration is the Neville Chamberlain of this war. I think their continued appeasement at the federal level with the Department of Justice, their appeasement of violent criminals, their refusal to condemn movements like Black Lives Matter, actively calling for the death of police officers, that type of thing, all the while blaming police for the problems in this country, has led directly to the climate that has made Dallas possible.
Right? Yeah. Appeasing Black Lives Matter, refused to condemn them even when they were calling for the death of police. Right? Said, I remember the Trayvon situation. Wait, no. Yep. No, here we go. Say, yep, Mike Brown did happen under Obama. Bro, most of it was the Philando Castile thing, bro. Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, bro. Like, all of these things were happening under Barack Obama, bro. But Trump is the one that makes motherfuckers feel racist. This is why this is so weird to me, right? But here, listen to one of the founders of the BLM movement talk about her training.
I think that the criticism is helpful. I also think that it might, I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists.
So you got a Marxist movement. The racial divide is at an all-time high. Right? You know what? I don't even know if I don't even know. Damn, I didn't even add that video. Lucky I ain't add that video. That's probably the one video that I forgot to add. Man, I almost want to go back and go find it. But anyway, all this is going down, and like, I'm just supposed to believe that like everything y'all done did is cool, right? That none of these type of policies, right? BLM, yo, here is what BLM and their, here's what happened in Tim Walz' estate. Because Minneapolis got burned to the ground in some parts. And I believe his wife made some comment about her being happy about the smell, right? Like she smelled the embers burning and it like, made her happy or something. I don't remember what the context was or the exact quote. So don't quote me, but I'm paraphrasing. It was something about enjoying the smell of the city burning. But let's go ahead and get a look at Minneapolis, right? With this movement that was started by Marxists and the damage that they did to their city. Y'all saw that Popeyes, right? Like that wasn't no foreign country. That wasn't a third world country. That was Minneapolis, right? Nah, I just can't believe that after all of the things that happened throughout President Obama's tenure, I can't believe that we're at this juncture now where this guy would be coming out here trying to lecture us about how we're voting or why we may be voting that way. To have him and his wife out here trying to act as if they're just totally above the fray and just beyond any type of criticism about anything that happened. believe I played the video here last time about that incident that happened at their house with their chef, and how he drowned in a very small body of water, even though he was or he allegedly was probably a, at least average to strong swimmer. That happened. There's been no kind of like at least what I've seen, any type of resolution from that situation. Just wait, one more thing, right? Because yeah, I almost forgot this one, right? Because when I think that this kind of shows his character. When the whole Benghazi thing was going down, Barack had somewhere to be. Let's go ahead and find out where it was so important for him to be while the Benghazi thing was going down.
I mean, Obama, as everybody knows, he did tell the Secretary of Defense, do use all means to do this. And then he got on a plane to Vegas to go see Beyonce and Jay-Z. It's like, why did he not cancel that trip and stay and make sure his orders are followed up on, right? Like, that's one thing that wasn't done that surprises me, that nobody ever complains about.
So Obama, this is while the attack's happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he flew to Vegas while the attacks were happening.
So we have an embassy and a CIA annex under attack, and the President of the United States is flying to Vegas to meet with Beyonce.
Yep.
You hear that, everybody?
But he gonna lecture us though. And you were meeting with Beyonce and Jay-Z about what when Benghazi is going on? But hey, right? But hey, Black excellence. You got me messed up, man. But look, some people have had it, myself included. We ain't really going for this no more. So I'm gonna play a couple clips of some people kind of going in. I got this one clip, and then I do have the longer version of this that I will go into. If y'all want me to play it, I will play the segment. But I'm gonna just play this clip for now, and then y'all can let me know.
It's absolutely degrading, and black men are sick of being reduced to being expected to think with our skin color. We have seen how terrible the Obama, Biden, Harris trilogy has been for our country. It has completely demoralized our country, and quite frankly, Obama has no credibility because this is the same man who heavily endorsed Joe Biden, and we all can feel in our pockets, and we can see it for sure at our border, just how terrible the Biden-Harris administration has been for our country. And Obama admitted himself back in an interview with Steve Colbert that if he could, he would run our country from an earpiece down in the basement. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly what he's doing.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, so Fresh said play it. All right. I'll play it. I'm going to play it after we get to these other videos, because I do want to get to these real quick. I found this one to be super interesting. This lady's going in. Let's see what she had to say.
Barack Obama was a plant. He did nothing for the black community. Did he ever come back to Chicago with as much crime to talk to young black men? He doesn't give a damn. Barack Obama is a curse on this nation. So is Joe Biden. I think it's a black abomination. We provided the money for his Marxist socialist programs, pushing abortion in Africa and other things. He didn't care about us. He didn't care. That gave rise to Trump, because Trump actually listened to us. He actually cares. Many of us, it was bad. At least Bill Clinton BS that said, I feel your pain. But at least he said it. Barack Obama didn't give a damn. He should have never been elected. Before he was elected in 2000, he got elected in 2008. My mother sent, may God rest her soul, letters to black churches warning them about Barack Obama, saying he was so ungodly. I said, Mom, that's harsh. She wrote it anyway. And everything my mother said, may God rest her soul, was right. He hates this country, but he wants to live off the fat of the land. Like the founders of Black Lives Matter, they don't give a damn about black people. They didn't have to spend one dime to help build a black business. But these lesbians, they bought homes in predominantly white neighborhoods. See, they say they have...
She is going in.
Crazy. Crazy. Right? But she ain't the only one. Right? I had to show y'all this. I was like, yo, this is wild right here. This dude's cooking. But let's see what he had to say.
Racism doesn't have any power.
Chuck, I don't agree with that. People were outwardly racist while Trump was in office. He gave the white people.
Like who?
He made it comfortable for people to be outwardly racist about how they fit. Chuck,
no, he didn't.
The climate was a lot different.
Studies came out about the racial divide trending in the wrong direction in 2013 when Barack Obama was entering his second term, when the Black Lives Matter movement jumped off. Let's not make it seem like Donald Trump led to this big increase in the racial schism in this country. That happened under Barack Obama. Since we want to go there,
but did it happen?
Since we want to go, it happened. Yes, it did happen. Yeah. We talk about one-way aggression. You allowed to be openly racist towards one particular group of people, and it's white people. Let's call a spade a spade.
White dudes are pussies.
White men are the issue.
White men are the biggest threat to America. They are.
You got analysts on MSNBC, CNN openly referring to Donald Trump and his voters as Nazis. Nowhere in popular media do you see white people saying the kinds of things that you see people saying about white people on national television, from Joy Reid, Trevor Noah, Don Lemon, over and over again.
But Chuck,
you don't see that anywhere else.
Because you can't get on mainstream media and make light of other races doesn't mean that the racial climate is still not what it is.
The reason why the racial climate is what it is because that's what critical race theory seeks to do. It seeks to polarize for the purpose of finding people who are sympathetic to your cause. And you keep on dividing one group onto itself until you create a group of disenchanted, angry, dysfunctional people that you can then use for the purpose of your liberation. That's not my words. Those are the words of Herbert Marcuse himself. Anybody talking about race in this country or talking about critical race theory and have never heard the writings or the words of Herbert Marcuse, you cannot sit at this table and talk because you don't know the theory, you don't know the science.
Look, but like somebody never heard of them, but in their own eyes, they look out into the world and think, yo, that shit is fishy to me.
I don't give a damn about what you go out in the world and see.
A racial slur was spray painted on the front gate.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is dealing with a racist
news found in the garage stall of Bubba Wallace.
See, this is all about narrative weaving and storytelling because they play upon people's emotions and how they feel. If I go to a doctor and tell a man, I feel like I'm having a heart attack, the doctor is going to run a specific set of tests to get to what is actually happening. He has to know the truth. He can't do medical procedures upon me based upon what I tell him I feel. He has to know for a fact. He has to know what he's talking about.
So he has to do a battery test.
He has to do a test because if he does the wrong treatment to me based upon what I feel, he could kill me.
Yep. Ocean Fresh says, I never understood why they push critical race theory instead of actual history that students can actually learn from. Bro, that's what I be saying, bro. Right? Necron said, man, I don't know where all this crap came from. When I was a kid in the 70s, all of us got along. Bro, it's weird, right? Because as you see, you know, kids kind of not playing outside no more, bro. Like I actually saw this video like where the power had went out and all the kids had to go play outside, and somebody like took a picture and it was like, yo, it looked like the 90s again. And it's so crazy. we have become so isolated from one another, and I don't think that, you know, there necessarily has to be this continuing of going down this path. I think that if we can all wake up, because as I said before, it's very hard for a country to insert certain things, or like install certain things, or do certain things to the population if the people resist, right? Like if there's resistance, then there can be a saving of like a lot of these things, right? Bruh, like it's clearly an attempt right now to, because look, I was just saying this, if you do have more elections worldwide this year than apparently any other time in human history, which is a stat that I heard. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds like it may be. If that's true, then this would be the year to, like, if you're gonna try to make a move, this is when you make the move. You could really do some damage. If it's more elections this year than any other time, I mean, why not make your move now? Which would also make this the perfect time to resist. Right? I'm going to play some of this video. This video disgusted me. Right? And this is not like specific to Obama, but he's part of this because he's part of the whole Afghanistan thing as well. But like the whole handling of the Afghanistan situation. I'm gonna play a chunk of this video, and then I'll come back and I'm gonna talk about it, and then I'll play that full clip from the big dog Anton over on Fox News. But I want y'all to check this out, because this is also another video that like really disturbed me, and I'll get into the reasons why very shortly. But check this out. This is the forces over in Afghanistan celebrating us being gone from the country, and they're having a parade using our old equipment that we just left in the region. Y'all go ahead and check this out.
درنو لیدونکو او د ملي رادیو اوریدونکو دا د امریکایي اشغال د هیواد د ازادۍ او فتحې په دې مراسمو کې د اسلامي امارت هوایي ځواکونه هم پوځي نمایشات ترسره کوي او د زمیني ځواکونو ملاتړ کوي. هوایي ځواکونه په اوسني عصر کې د یو هیواد د دفاع له اساسي عناصرو ګڼل کیږي. اسلامي امارت د هوایي ځواک تقویې، ترمیم او پراختیا ته کلک تعهد لري او په تېرو 3 کلونو کې یې ګڼ شمېر څرخه کې او الوتکې ترمیم او د پرواز وړ ګرځولې دي. بینندگان و شنوندگان مراسم، اینک کندک دوم تانگاهای زیری جاریدار آمریکایی که در میدان نبرد سینه دشمن را میشکافد با نظم و دیسیپلین عالی و کمال احترام به مقامات عالی رتبه امارت اسلامی و مهمانان گرامی از پیش لوژ عبور میکنند.
So you got like MRAPs, helicopters. There's other videos with like Humvees, armored and kitted up. Can you imagine how that feels for somebody like me to have been over there and actually like have used a lot of that equipment? I've rode in those types of vehicles. You know, worked on them in the motor pool, right? You know, do PMCS on them, right? It's just crazy to have actually been over there using that equipment and then have to turn around and look up and see the forces of Afghanistan just parading our shit down the middle of the street. Right? That's a crazy sight. I would have never thought that I would see that. Right? I'd have never thought that I'd have saw that in my lifetime. Never. For us to just leave a bunch of shit over there, and then they try to say, "Oh, but we didn't leave any manuals, and you know, it's the stuff that they got barely works." Bruh, they'll figure that shit out. They'll figure it out, bro. They will. They're not dumb, you know. It's wild, Joe. It's wild. And I think that, you know, a lot of the things that we maybe once could just allow to kind of, you know, go unspoken about, or kind of just let it fly under the radar or not really be too involved in it. I don't think that we're in that realm anymore, right? Where we can just sit idly by and not say anything, you know, or not try to do anything, or to not try to, you know, resist, as I was saying earlier. You know, telling you. Crazy. I'm about to go ahead and I'm gonna play this segment. I don't know if this was the same one, but this is the one that I got pulled. And after this, I'm gonna come back and I'll give my final thoughts, and then we'll start wrapping up.
Joining me now is Xavier DeRousseau, a former BLM activist, and Anton Daniels, a YouTuber, content creator. Xavier, let's start with you. You say you were personally, after watching them, offended by Obama's comments?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, Obama's not as talented of a liar as he used to be. But quite frankly, my ancestors fought way too hard for me to have the ability to learn how to read, just for Obama to expect me to be so uneducated to think that I would vote for Kamala Harris simply because she claims to be a black woman. And I mean, if people want to stop having Kamala Harris be called a DEI hire, maybe he should stop trying to remind us of her demographic every 5 minutes. Black men not supporting Kamala has nothing to do with her being a woman. It has everything to do with her lack of accomplishments over the last 1,359 days.
Well, Anton, I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, the shtick is kind of worn thin with Obama, you know. How you doing, Pittsburgh? You know, that whole, it just seems very 2002 or 3, I mean, 2008, I should say. Right? It doesn't quite have the same appeal, as megastar-ish as he is.
You know, it's a Hail Mary pass, considering that we did vote him in based off of identity politics. And I'm not saying that all is bad, because he did do some things that I didn't necessarily disagree with that Trump absolutely did better than him. But at the same time, I felt that it was incredibly disrespectful because he's making the assumption that we're not educated enough to lead our families, to look at the policies, to understand exactly what's going on with immigration, and we're supposed to overlook everything that they did over the last 3.5 years that was not in our favor. And when I say our, I'm talking about the American people, let alone men, let alone black men, and we're supposed to vote for her because of some misogynistic reason that's made up. And instead, we've learned how to educate ourselves, and now they've sent their Messiah back to rein us in and bring us back into the Democratic plantation. And most men that I've spoken with have said that it's absolutely disrespectful, and we're done with Obama.
Well, Xavier, again, when he says, you're lucky Michelle's not here, he does. What is that supposed to mean? I mean, I guess it's supposed to be funny because she'll scold them in a more convincing or scarier fashion. It's kind of treating young black men as children, almost like you're children, and mommy's coming back and mommy's going to chastise you and you're going to get punished. But you're supposed to vote against your own economic interests to make Michelle and Barack happy and their 4 mansions?
It's absolutely degrading, and black men are sick of being reduced to being expected to think with our skin color. We have seen how terrible the Obama, Biden, Harris trilogy has been for our country. It has completely demoralized our country, and quite frankly, Obama has no credibility because this is the same man who heavily endorsed Joe Biden, and we all can feel in our pockets, and we can see it for sure at our border, just how terrible the Biden-Harris administration has been for our country. And Obama admitted himself back in an interview with Steve Colbert that if he could, he would run our country from an earpiece down in the basement. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly what he's doing.
Now, Xavier, Anton, the media are really pushing Obama to be the, rescue agent for Kamala's campaign. Watch this.
Barack Obama, with joy and with humor, is able to sort of get through to an audience that it's not okay to lie. Mm-hmm. It's not okay to sell the presidency. It's not okay to be a narcissist and to have the reins of the presidency.
Anton, so Kamala's joy campaign isn't really working. So Obama's going to come in, and again, you're supposed to make less money in real terms, right, and be happy with it to make Obama and like MSNBC happy? I don't understand this argument.
They took the same blueprint that got Obama elected, and he was a first for us, right? So our grandparents and our parents and things like that wanted to see this happen, but they were largely voting out of ignorance and voluntary ignorance because they only wanted that identity politics in order to push him through into the presidency. But admittedly, where he was charismatic, she isn't. And so we can see through her. She's a chameleon. When they unleashed her and they allowed for her to be able to take reporters' questions and things like that, it showed that she was completely incompetent. And frankly, not only do we feel disrespected, but I'm uncomfortable with Obama standing in front of us trying to scold us and then divert our attention away from the things that's really meaningful, especially for our families. I'm not comfortable with him. I don't want to hear any more messages of hope. I don't want to hear any more messages of joy. I can feel it with my pocketbooks. My friends can feel it with their pocketbooks. And we're ready for him to get out of our way.
I mean, Xavier, I saw something on YouTube. I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was Instagram. But it was a young man, African-American, and he was talking about the price of food. And I think he was at some fast food place. I can't remember what. I think it might have been McDonald's. But just the nuts and bolts, when you go through just what a Happy Meal costs, the differential in simple things that families like to treat themselves to, that's shocking. Like in Obama, that doesn't affect him. It doesn't affect Hillary. It doesn't affect Trump, but Trump somehow has that ability to say, that's not acceptable in America. But they think Obama's charm is going to override daily life for people. The charm offensive from him, it's not 2008 any longer.
I can't emphasize enough that being a young black voter, it feels like the Democrats are constantly trying to gaslight me about my own reality. I know how expensive food is. I know how expensive gas is. And I know how many illegal immigrants are running around in Los Angeles. We are sick and tired of being expected to feel good with Barack Obama, or now they're trying to put the ovarian version of Barack Obama up there and tell us that she is talented. She is absolutely not talented. And on behalf of black men, it's not that we're opposed to having a female president because, Miss Ingram, I would love to vote for you if you ever decide to run.
Only if you guys are in my cabinet. That's the only way I'm going to do it. Xavier and Anton, thanks for spending time with us on a Friday night. We appreciate it.
Crazy business. Crazy business. But look, that's the word on the street right now. Like, it ain't just me. You know, I thought it was. Just like I thought it was only me and Leon who really was rocking out with Joker too. And then Quentin Tarantino comes out of nowhere and was like, nah, I think that shit's fire too. And I'm like, yes, it's not just me. It's like, yes, it's not just me that sees these things. I think people are fed up. I think people are looking to move forward, you know, and really have a situation where we can, you know, have an economy that really, really works for us. And, you know, I was asking people earlier, I'm like, I would like to find somebody that could argue against no taxes on tips. Or I would like to find somebody that would argue against like not taxing overtime, right? Or hey, maybe ending the federal income tax, right? I would like to find somebody that's against auditing the government. I don't know, right? But we're gonna see. We're gonna see. Look, I want to thank y'all for rocking out. As always, it is a pleasure. Open your minds up. We got an election on the 5th. Make sure you guys go out there and vote. Make sure that y'all registered. This should be a very interesting time. Oh, and my announcement. I will be going live during election day. I'm about to put that stream up right now. Make sure that y'all check that out. I will be going live election day after I go vote and all that. And I will be covering everything live on the channel. We're going to be watching what's going on, and I'm going to be tapping in with y'all to see how y'all feel about it. Right? He said, you ain't the only one, Sky, right? Nah. Hey, I don't mind. Go ahead and I will check it out. But yeah, no, it's just it should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to tap in with y'all on election day. And come Saturday, we got cartoons and cereal. You know what I'm saying? Still got Zack Snyder hour coming up soon as well. Yeah, a lot of streams planned. Make sure that y'all are here, ready to go, and tapped in with that subscribe button hit and that notification bell as well. We about to dip on out of here, and we will get it y'all next time. Okay, y'all have a good one. Peace.